I am often asked about ice diving. You don't go diving under the ice, do you? The question is kind of posed like, you aren't nuts, are you? This 1960s quote from Jacques Cousteau perfectly describes my diving experience. We all have very busy lives. We are inundated with the technologies and additional technologies all the time. We have just a wealth of information coming to us, and with that, misinformation. Most of us also carry an electronic leash that keeps us on schedule, tells us all of our deadlines, and tells us what all of our friends are doing. We need some break from this. We need a release from this stress. Diving, for me, brings a focus. Some of you may meditate, may participate in yoga, or some other activity that puts you in that moment. Diving does that for me. When I go underwater, it's like all the stress is gone. All the weight is gone. Schedules disappear. Deadlines don't exist. The only thing I am thinking about is my breathing, my buoyancy in the water, and the anticipation of what I'm going to find on this dive. This really struck me one winter dive. I was diving with a student, and I went into the hole first, slid down, went underwater, and scooted back out of the way and rested my head on the bottom of the ice. At that moment, weeks and months of stress just washed away. I was so calm finally. And so relaxed. The being there under the ice, being just so calm and relaxed, was like, this is home. This is where I belong. Then a smile comes to my face as I see my student's legs entering the water and dropping below the layer of the ice and going, this is quite the irony of how absolutely comfortable I feel in a place that intimidates, if not terrorizes, most of the rest of the world. The second question I often get is, well, isn't it cold? Or, aren't you afraid of finding the hole again? Yes, the water is cold. I don't like being cold, though. There is a lot of equipment in ice diving. I do not have to be cold to enjoy ice diving. And actually, for a lot of the winter here in northern Minnesota, the water is significantly warmer than the air. Although, water does take heat away from your body 20 times faster than air does. So we wear a dry suit. And there's two parts to a dry suit. There's the shell. That keeps me dry. The previous picture under the water, I am completely dry. I'm not wet at all. The other layer is fleece. A fleece layer underwear underneath that shell provides air space for insulation. That is what keeps me warm. And the fleece is very important because it doesn't soak up moisture like cotton does from condensation forming on the suit. Ice diving, as with any overhead environment diving, whether it's cave diving, cavern diving, or wreck penetration diving, has certain safety procedures to follow. So I can find my way back out of these. For ice diving, I maintain contact with the surface by use of a rope. A surface support personnel, a tender, is assigned to every diver. And we use a rope to communicate and know a way out. Now the rope, the tender, one thing that my tender learns is how to keep tension on the rope. So we can use this and not get entangled. And this is also used as a communication tool. My tender can give one pull on the rope, which is asking if I'm okay. And I want to make sure that I'm not going to confuse signals. I give one pull back after a little delay. And then my tender takes the slack back up. And the tender will give me 2 pulls on the rope. That's telling me I'm as far away from the hole as she has rope. So I acknowledge back 1 pull that I need to change directions. I can't go this way anymore. I need to start going this way to continue on my dive. There's a few other signals, but one that's very important that I'll come back to is things could go wrong. And I may need to get out of here. So if I give 3 pulls to my tender, 1, 2, 3, I'm saying I want to get out of here. And if I really want to get out of here, I'm going to keep pulling to make sure that she got the message. And she would start pulling me back to the exit. Now, I also use wireless communications. So a lot of times when I'm diving under the ice, I can talk directly to another surface support personnel or my tender. Ice diving is a team event. It takes several people to pull off doing an ice dive. But for each diver, it's an individual experience. Now, once I'm at the bottom of the lake, there's really no difference to diving in the summer. Well, except for the rope, and I can only get so far away from the hole. But being at the bottom, there's really no difference. So why go ice diving? Why not just wait till July? Am I nuts? No, visibility. The layer of ice on top of the lakes keeps the waves from hitting the shore and stirring up the shoreline. We have no rain and runoff into the lakes, building up the sediments. River inlets into the lakes, they're down to a trickle. We don't have a lot of water coming into the lakes, and that layer of ice allows all the sediments to settle to the bottom. I've been diving in a few of our local lakes. Been diving in Lake Bemidji, and in the winter, we can have over 30-foot visibility in Lake Bemidji. But a few years ago, I was diving in another lake, Big Sand Lake, down towards Park Rapids, between here and Park Rapids. I was 70 feet underwater, along a rocky shelf, and I get 2 pulls from my tender, and surprised her. I get 2 pulls indicating I need to change directions. I take a look at my gauges, and I see that I'm 70 feet underwater. And I take a look up the rope. And I look up the rope, realizing I am 100 feet away. There's 100 feet of rope out. I'm 70 feet deep. And I can see my tender standing on the ice. Now, from here to the back of the theater is 60 feet. 100 feet puts me out on the curb. So I'm seeing 100 feet in one of our local lakes in the winter. Am I crazy? The diving is really good in the winter. Now, Big Sand Lake is one of our clearer lakes around here, but it's not this clear in the summer. Another event that can happen, and I talked with a lot of ice divers, I just love this phenomenon, is I'll roll over and I'll look up at the ice, and if the sun angle is just right, it's like I'm swimming, I'm weightless underneath this beautiful emerald green crystal ceiling. It's just an incredible sight when that happens. So after exploring for a while, coming towards the end of my dive, I go up to the surface, away from my exit point, and I go up there basically to play with the bubbles. As I exhale, the bubbles go up and they get trapped against the ice, and you can go up there and play with them. You can try writing your name in the larger bubbles, and for some of us, you may remember back to science class in elementary or high school where the teacher let you play with mercury. And you could push it around the table and you could play with mercury. You can't do that anymore. Now, the ice here is extremely smooth and almost frictionless. For several of us veteran ice divers who have been doing this for a while, we also engage in a fairly unknown, rare winter activity: inverted under ice skiing. So remember, I'm wearing a dry suit. It's filled with air. I can flip upside down when I'm there at the surface of the ice, or the bottom surface of the ice, flip upside down and all the air in the suit runs to my feet. I can take additional air from my tank and put into my suit that runs down to my feet and plants my feet now upside down on the bottom of the ice. In really clear lakes, I can see this flat plane around me, and like that, I am no longer upside down. I am standing on this upside down world under the ice. Now it's time to end the dive. I'm about 80 to 100 feet away from the hole, and I'm standing on the bottom of the ice, upside down. My tender knows what's happening because I've let her know that I am going to signal 3 pulls that I want to ride back to the hole. So I'm going to give 3 pulls, 1, 2, 3, signaling to my tender that I'm ready to end this dive, and I'm going to sit back, go into a little bit of a tuck, and start getting pulled across the bottom of the ice back to the exit. Now, water is fairly dense, and that tender starts pulling you in. It feels like you are flying through the water. It's going really slow, but it feels like you're going very fast going through the water. Upside down, riding this back in along this smooth surface. What a fantastic way to end the dive and this unique experience. Thank you.